This is Scott Becker with the Becker Private Equity and the Becker Business Podcast. We try and produce 1 to 2 business or market insight episodes a day, plus an interview with a brilliant business leader. Today's discussion is with Amber Walsh. And Amber is a brilliant lawyer. She's also a business person. She serves on the executive committee of McGuireWoods, a top 50 law firm and a billion-dollar business. She works at the intersection of healthcare and private equity. She's going to talk to us today about a different subject, one that we don't talk about often, but the impact of weather on the business and deal environment in healthcare and a lot more. Amber, let me tee it up and ask you to tell us what you're watching as storms ravage throughout the United States and some of the impact on the deal community and the business community.
Absolutely, Scott. And this is a topic that is fascinating to me. There are so many different angles to this concept of major weather events and their impact on the U.S. economy and deal making, but also the learning that comes out of all major storms and the companies that end up developing to produce solutions to the losses that were felt during those weather events. And of course, those weather events can be anything from the California forest fires to hurricanes to one of the biggest ones that is often used as a benchmarking tool is the 2021 Texas ice storm. But we're also right in the middle of one right now. Those of us in the Midwest, I think, have kind of gotten through the worst of it, at least temporarily. But those in the South, particularly Mississippi, Tennessee, they were really hard hit, and it's going to be a bit before they come out of it. And so what starts to happen, and has already been happening, is major organizations that track these things are already starting to estimate the costs on the economy and how these types of losses might be different than in years past. And of course, companies will be responding to these learning events to try to prevent this and create some resiliency going forward. But there's some really interesting conversations and statistics that are already being discussed.
Thank you. And talk about that for a moment. What are some of those stats and some of those discussions? Because, like I know just anecdotally, and so much of life is anecdotal, which is not how it should be, but I'm working with a firm company in Nashville, and they're essentially shut down for several days because the internet's out, the Wi-Fi's out, everything's just out. But what are we going to see out here with a lot of this? What is the sense of the impact of this?
Yeah, it's very interesting. So just take it first from the angle of the dozens of organizations that monitor and report on these impacts, this intersection between weather events and economics. And there's a lot, and there's kind of friendly debates amongst the organizations. Some are government funded, like NOAA and the National Weather Service. Then you have private companies like AccuWeather, and they put out these predictions, and then of course they go back in and do deeper analytics after the event, and once you're in very much the post-weather event stage. But the AccuWeather right now for this storm is estimating more than $100 billion of cost to the U.S. economy. Other organizations poo-poo that a little bit, say that AccuWeather always overestimates. And of course, it's, how you measure the losses and costs. But there's a more universally, it seems, agreed statistic that is cited and tracked by this institute at Colorado State University, that depending on the magnitude, the breadth, et cetera, of the particular event, that those major events can have between a 0.5% and a full 2% hit to GDP for a given year, which to me is just astounding. And so you take these really seriously. You've got human lives impacted, the danger to self, and of course, but then you have this impact on economics, not to mention the insurance industry and the property and casualty trade associations that also track it and are constantly looking for a better understanding of the loss and, of course, how to prevent that loss going forward.
What can businesses do about this? It seems like the natural periodic weather disasters, far better than war disasters, but what can businesses do about it? And what do you hear from, you work a lot with both private equity funds and invest in healthcare. How much is this slowing down any of that or not particularly? What are you sort of seeing from that perspective?
Yeah, that's a really interesting piece of this in that you do see particularly the more sophisticated investors, those that have the wherewithal to invest in deeper dive diligence, doing resilience assessments during the diligence period. How resilient is this particular healthcare business to a major weather event? And of course, the extent to which you're going to invest in that kind of diligence depends on the type of business. But that alone is an interesting angle to the healthcare investing dynamic. I don't really think, and I don't see anyone chattering about major weather events having much of a sustained impact on healthcare investing in terms of a chilling effect, not to use a weather term, but more that they inform investors about the types of risk that a particular business may have and the extent to which that business is poised to react. And so you have a couple of different things. You have private equity-backed businesses who are resilience assessment companies and who go in and help healthcare providers, especially those that have heavy workforce and are facility-based where you have to be in person, the patient-touching businesses, helping them to prepare better and put some different solutions in place, both your telemedicine, your ability to relocate patients, your ability to use remote workforce on the drop of a hat. You have private equity investing in those types of companies that help healthcare providers, but then you also have, as I said at the beginning, you also have the investors taking a deeper look at resiliency and whether or not they can invest in some tools for their portfolios that will help them kind of weather the storms. There I accidentally used another bad metaphor, but that is another way that these storms inform investors.
100%. But overall, it feels a little bit regional at the moment because it seems like in Chicago where the temperatures are below zero, it doesn't seem to have that much of an impact on business. There's some impact, but it doesn't seem to be directly, so many businesses are remote today. I guess I was at a restaurant the other day. It was empty partly because it was 0 degrees out. But I guess it's so hard to really fathom. And then you see parts of the South that just aren't used to this kind of weather just getting smashed and they're really slowing down. But how much is it regional versus national? How do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's very regional, although they're estimating that more than half of the states are going to have loss, real economic loss with this particular storm. And that seems to be kind of universally agreed by NOAA and the NWS and AccuWeather and the other organizations. But yes, it's going to have regional implications. In Mississippi in particular, their power grid isn't supportive. They are losing cell tower service, all the things that you can naturally flex to. And this happened in Texas in 2021 as well. Your backup plans aren't working. And so people are having to, if it's safe, people are having to relocate to just both be safe and also to do business. So absolutely, while you and I are experiencing virtually no glitches to our day, certainly there are pockets that will have that for a while. And so when you think about the calculation of cost and what goes into that determination. Of course, lost revenue is right at the top. There's some really obvious ones, but lost revenue from just a failure to be able to transact business for an extended period of time is top on the list.
No, that has a very, very real impact. No, absolutely. Well, it'll be really interesting how this plays out. This feels like a storm system that really sort of caught us a little bit by surprise. Like all of a sudden it was here and having massive impacts, particularly in some states. And you're saying at least 25 states can have a big impact, but it seems like there's 5 or 7 that are just getting crushed. And it's like, I feel like a little bit, and the reason I asked the question is a little bit oblivious to it. Because when I called for business that we're doing with a firm out of Nashville, and I felt almost oblivious to it because they said they were just basically closed for the week because things are all shut down. And what you said about Mississippi, about the wire towers and the telephone towers, it's so fascinating. It's just so interesting to watch what goes on and the impact it has. I take it in some of the tropical areas or the southern places. It'll also be a killer for crops too, because you get crops. And whenever this happens, it seems to kill the citrus crops, kills other crops and so forth too. So I guess it will have very wide-ranging impacts: healthcare, investing, private equity, food, everything, distribution. The UPS, FedEx gets smashed a little bit when this happens and so forth. What a fascinating subject. And let's just hope it's not too bad. And let's hope that there is very limited loss of life, because you always have some tragedies that come out of these things as well.
Absolutely. And I am hoping for the same, because of all the impacts that you just listed, there are dozens and dozens. Closure of intermodal hubs. There's just so many different impacts. Rural communities hit particularly hard. They are especially isolated when something like this happens. Universities are evacuating their students. Many of them don't have cars. So they have to make alternative plans to get out. And yet those of us in the Midwest that deal with these things quite a bit, for this particular storm, we're in good shape and just hoping that the rest of the citizenry does okay.
100%. Well, let's hope it gets better. Amber, thank you so much for joining us today on the Becker Business and the Becker Private Equity Podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you.